filming this?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Dude, I'm filming everything. We're at Peak and Peak.
Hello everybody and welcome to Insider's Guide. Today we're talking about one of the most inviting ski areas I've ever experienced, Peak and Peak. Despite being situated in the middle of nowhere western New York, Peak and Peak offers a very solid program for learners and engaging terrain for more experienced guests. For those new, in this series we give you all the information we wish we'd known before skiing mountains for the first time. So with that, let's begin an Insider's Guide to Ski Resorts, Peak and Peak. Now, Peak and Peak is a fairly small and limited hill, but it serves a big purpose within the context of skiing as a whole. It's the only reasonably sized mountain serving populations such as Cleveland, Youngstown, and Erie. It's an excellent learning mountain, and it offers a friendly, welcoming vibe often not found at bigger, more renowned resorts. As such, for lower experience or first-time guests within driving range of Peak and Peak, I couldn't recommend it more for a day or two. It's not necessarily a mountain you'd fly away for, but it's a much better experience than it looks on paper in my opinion. You can often find the name Peak and Peak stylized as PK2 or PK squared. Now, Peak and Peak actually does offer some on-site lodging, which, while charming, is rather expensive, I've found. It's a fun experience to do once, offering unparalleled convenience and an authentic feel. However, it's much more practical to day trip. That's to say, to drive between off-site lodging in the mountain on the day you ski. Parking at Peak and Peak is quite convenient and free, so this makes day tripping an even more attractive option. What I will recommend, whether you day trip or stay on site, is to arrive as early as you can. Many people start their day around 11 or even later, so the lowest crowds and best snow conditions will almost always be found in the first few hours after opening. Many people who go to Peak and Peak have never skied before, so if that's you, no need to fear, you certainly won't be alone. However, as a person who has seen a few too many bad ski accidents in their life, I'd like to implore you to enroll yourself or your kids, whoever's new, in lessons. Compared to other mountains, lessons at Peak and Peak are fairly economical, and they only span an hour for adults or a half day for kids. This affords plenty of time to go explore the mountain on your own after having learned the basics from a professional. If you are going to enroll in lessons, be sure to look into Peak and Peak's various packages, as there are numerous options that include tickets, lessons, and rentals that end up being cheaper than paying for those all separately. Outside of skiing, a popular activity offered at Peak and Peak is snow tubing. If you intend to do this, don't book the first session and don't book in mid-afternoon. If you're the first ones of the day and it snows the night before your session, it's going to be quite slow and boring. However, you don't want to be in the afternoon because if it's a warm day, the snow might start to get slushy, which can also slow you down. Instead, aim for around 11 a.m. or after sundown. Alright, with all of that background done, let's now move into what this series is more traditionally known for, a breakdown of the on-mountain skiing experience. One quick point of vocabulary: when I say the word pod, I'm referring to all of the trails directly served by a certain lift. For example, trails 20 through 24 make up the pod for lifts 1 and 2. Now, there is parking all along the width of the ski area, so where you start depends on your situation. If you need to purchase or pick up a lift ticket, rentals, or lessons, you'll want to park in the large parking lot adjacent to letters F and G here on the map. If you turn in towards the lodge and then continue across, you can get to a tiny hidden parking lot in these trees at the base of Chair 3. This is separate from the other parking lot you can see on the map here. If you arrive before 10 a.m. and already have equipment and a pass, I'd recommend heading to this lot to see if there are spaces. There is also a small parking lot at the top of Chair 7 by the letter T here. If you arrive before 10, you can also try this parking lot. If you park there and don't have a pass, you'll just ski down Trail 11 to the main lodge, at which you can go buy one. Peak and Peak has one of the more unique lift setups around, featuring a pair of so-called double triples. These are, quite simply, just two 3-seater chairlifts that run parallel with each other. Typically, only one or the other will run, with both chairlifts running simultaneously only on the busiest weekends and holidays. One such example of this setup is on the far looker's right side of the mountain, with chairlifts 1 and 2, where you'll typically only be able to ride one or the other. Off of those lifts, trail number 24, Greenwood Forest, is one of the easiest blues on the mountain and also one of my favorites. It's generally less busy than others and has a couple of twists that keep it interesting. All of these trails with orange markers are hosts of terrain parks. Do remember that you don't have to hit every single feature every lap, but be courteous and follow general park etiquette here. Because Peak & Peak is a learning mountain, that volatility can extend into the parks, so ski with caution. King Richard's, 19, and Doncaster Trail, 20, form one larger trail for a majority of their lengths. This section can be quite busy and has a lot of crossover traffic, so be careful here. By and large, this pod served by chairs 1 and 2 is best for terrain park skiers, while non-park guests will only be entertained for a couple laps. As such, park skiers and riders should park at the base of these lifts, while everybody else should not. There is a lodge, letter J, at the bottom of this pod, and this is my favorite lodge on the mountain since it's typically the least busy of the three. It is important to note that many people leave backpacks and other items on tables in the lodges. Despite this, you can still use those tables to eat or take a break, assuming they're not occupied, of course. Just lookers left of 1 and 2 is Chair 3, a standalone 3-seater chairlift. Since it doesn't have a parallel lift, serves green terrain, and is prominent from the bunny hill, this lift can see both crowds and frequent stoppages. For beginners, this is a great lift, offering laps on the ultra-wide mellow Allenadale, Trail 18. For all others, I'd recommend skipping this lift, although you will have to ride it once to get from 1 and 2 back to the other lifts. Tucked at the bottom of Chair 3 are the Tubing Hill on the right and the Bunny Hill on the left. The Bunny Hill, Chair 17, is served by 3 lifts. If you're just starting out, you'll start on this MC, Magic Carpet, before then progressing to either Chair 4 or Chair 5, each of which are 2-seater chairlifts. For the most part, this area is separate from more advanced skiers and riders, offering a gentle, comfortable space to work on the basics before heading over to Chair 3. One wall of the base lodge offers wide windows with views of this bunny hill so that parents can watch their little ones skiing. The majority of trails at Peak & Peak are served by chairs 6 and 7, which make up the other example of the double-triple setup outside of 1 and 2. Because these are the closest major lifts to the main lodge and they serve a large amount of terrain, these lifts are the first to get lines at the mountain. When they're both running, Chair 7, the one on the left, runs just a touch faster than Chair 6, but it's a negligible difference in the grand scheme of things. If you go to the right as you exit the lift, you can ski along the houses to access Friar Tuck's Trek, Trail 14. That very first part along the houses can be a touch flat, so be prepared for that. This switchback green road offers access both back to 6 and 7, along with over to 3. However, it gets quite busy, so I don't recommend it for true beginners. There is some good tree skiing throughout these woods around 14, and since the road is constantly crisscrossing through, you can duck into the woods and quickly quit if it's too much. My favorite blue runs at Peak & Peak are 13 and 15, Race Arena and Sherwood Meadow. Many people skip these in favor of the blues on the outer edges of the resort, so they're often nice and quiet. Trail 11, Will-o'-the-Wisp, is one of the more popular runs in the pod, so I typically skip it in favor of trails 8, 9, and 10. My favorite of these 3 is number 8, Quarterstaff. You start by skiing down Longbow under the lift, and there's a huge trail entrance on your right. That's Trail 25, Catapult. You ski past that and take the next right, which is much more nondescript. That second right puts you on Quarterstaff, and it quickly turns into another classic black, just wide enough to comfortably turn, but just narrow enough to give the feeling of being in the middle of the woods. Most people ski right past the entrance without ever noticing it, so it's nice and quiet as well. By and large, the trails in this area get steeper on their lower halves, but Trail 7, Crossbow, is the exception to that. Its initial pitch right off of Trail 6 is likely the steepest trail anywhere at Peak & Peak. Trail 6 itself, Robin Hood's Retreat, gets quite crowded, so I would recommend avoiding it except for transiting to and from the Chair 8 terrain. Instead, Trails 3 and 4, Willie Winkin and Finsbury Field, are much better blues to lap. Do be cautious on the bottom half of Trail 4, as I've noticed an abnormally high rate of crashes there. If you're looking to ski trees at Peak & Peak, this pod is the area to do it, as the trees between 3 and 4 are the clearest and best tree skiing on the mountain. The upper half of the woods between 4 and 5 also offer some excellent forest turns. Down at the bottom of Chair 8 is the third of the lodges. This lodge does not have a cafeteria like the others, but rather a traditional sit-down restaurant. The bottom of Chair 8 is also where most of the on-site lodging offered by Peak & Peak is located. Now, since Chair 8 has all of those options just mentioned, in combination with it being a standalone lift, it can get some solid lift lines, sometimes even exceeding those seen at 6 and 7. However, for the true intermediate skier, this is the best place to be at Peak and Peak, so if you want to ski blues and already have equipment and a pass, it'd be worthwhile to take a look at parking here. To return to the rest of the mountain, you'll take Trail 5 to the lower half of Trail 6, but beware that this route will drop you off a bit below the main lodge, so if that was your objective, you'll have to either walk up a little or ride up Chair 6 or 7 and ski back down. Alright, that's about it for Peak and Peak. If you have any questions, please leave them down below and I'll do my best to respond to each of them. If you enjoyed this video or found it helpful, please consider subscribing to help support this stream. Thank you all so much for watching. All my love, I'm out.